Kyle Warner of the Warner Brothas Podcast. That is not Keenan with a skin transplant. This is Branndon Petty. Brandon, what up, bro? It's been too long.
What's going on, bro? It's been a long time, man. Too long. Too damn long.
Too damn long, man. OG guest of the Warner Brothas Podcast. He actually had at the time what we thought was a hot take with Zion. Do you wanna revisit that?
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, we can do that.
So what was your exact, before we get to everything else, but what was your exact prediction of his career? What was it that you said?
So I thought he was going to be too injury prone with his height and his weight and just like his track record at Duke, like for that 1 year with the whole shoe incident, and,
True.
You know, him missing games and stuff. It's one of those things. Yeah, it's just like I thought, you know, at the time, I'm like, okay, this guy's going to be too injury prone. Like he's not going to be able to stay on the court, you know, just because of playing weight. You know, if he sheds 30, 40, maybe 50 pounds, you know, then, you know, he might be, you know, durable enough, but that's not the case.
Yeah, man. 4 years later, he's still eating that good Louisiana cuisine, getting porn stars pregnant. It's been a rough start for Zion, but we'll keep it easy.
It's rough.
But the reason why we're here, you might have heard, big album dropped over the weekend. Travis Scott, Utopia. Branndon actually has probably the most diverse music taste I've seen. Honestly, like you listen to I say I listen to everything. You truly listen to everything.
I've got about Snow Lives in my car today on the way home from work, and just on Apple Music alone, I've got I think it's like 28,000 something songs just on Apple Music, and then that's not including, you know, Spinrilla and, like, you know, everything else, SoundCloud,
Spotify, all that shit.
Yeah,
you still be on SoundCloud?
Yeah, I still get on SoundCloud. Yeah.
Okay, you're with the shits.
Oh yeah, I do some deep ass diving for some music. I'll scroll through, you know, every Thursday night, Friday morning when music drops, and I'll sit there and just scroll through and find shit to listen to.
Give me something then that I would consider maybe extremely random that's like in your rotation, because you'll send me shit where you're like, yo, did you hear this? I'm like, damn, you really do listen to fucking everything. So like, give me an example of, all right, this is random. This isn't really my palette, but I'm listening to it. I'm fucking with it. Give me one.
So it's actually a guy that has collabed with Travis Scott, James Blake. I love his music. Yeah. His music is great. You know, there's some I listen to a lot of like I guess, you know, reggae music, stuff like that. Okay. Like kind of guys like DeVito and like WizKid, stuff like that.
Afrobeat,
you know,
shit.
Yeah, I kind of like Afrobeat, house music, I guess is what some people call it now. But I mean, I've, you know, from rap to R&B to some country.
Yeah, you be on your country shit. I see that on socials. You be on your Jacksonville country boy shit too. I see you.
Yeah, you know, every once in a while that'll kind of come out. You know, but we, you know, obviously, you know, rap music and R&B is where it's at, you know.
It's the wheelhouse. That's the wheelhouse. Yeah, James Blake, last album, Friends That Break Your Heart. I remember us talking about that. That's a good album. He's got a different sound, you know. He's kind of got that spacey Travis sound. So it makes sense they make music together.
And I think they should collab more. I mean, personally. I think they absolutely have to.
I mean, so have they collabed before?
So yeah, album? They had, it was off of, I don't know if it was on an album of James Blake or if it was just a single. They had a song called Mile High.
That's right. No, Mile High is hard. Mile High is hard.
Yeah, he put that out in 2019. I think that was on record. I think that was their first collab. I'm pretty sure.
That's off one of his albums. If not, it's like a Metro Boomin shit. That's a good joint.
Yeah, that was a good song.
That's exactly why we have you on, Branndon, right now. Bringing them back to my memory. But let's get right to it. Utopia. It would be very simple to say thoughts, but what was your first reaction Friday night, Saturday, or Friday morning, I should say, when you put the album in? What was your first initial thoughts when you hear it?
So my honest first initial thought was, first thing is I was like, damn, I'm really going to like this album. Mm-hmm. But the first, like, genuinely, like, I thought to myself, like, it had kind of like a different vibe in terms of beats and stuff than Astroworld or Birds, you know, or Rodeo. you know, and it had more of it kind of like had that OG like Travis Scott kind of like dark vibe to it.
Definitely got the dark vibe. I think I put on my Instagram the other day. It sounds like a scary movie to me. Like it sounds like it'd be the score of a horror movie. Honestly,
yeah,
is the
it
vibe
does.
I
It
get from
does.
it. Like you said, his sounds kind of dark and ominous anyway, but this one especially all the way through. It's like you get a couple club joints, but even the club joints kind of sound like they could be a score of a movie. You know, it's different.
They're all dark and everything.
Let me actually take you back a week before he releases K-pop. Him, The Weeknd, and Bad Bunny. What'd you think initially when you heard that? Like, what vibe did that set for the album for you? Because me, I was like, what the fuck is this? I can't even picture this on the Travis album. Was my initial thoughts.
Yeah, that was my first thought too, because that sounded that was too upbeat for Travis Scott. Like
Exactly.
he hadn't that's not really something that he's like dabbled in before, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, like are we gonna get more kind of like Afrobeat kind of music, you know, are we gonna get more kind of like I guess you know, trap based, you know, stuff more so than what he normally does because like you said, you know, he's more of like that kind of dark auto tune, you know, kind of like you know, darker music. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. That's kind of where I was. I'm like, all right, what am I really getting out of this album? And honestly, the first time through, we'll get your thoughts on it, but the first time through, I was still kind of like, damn, this song doesn't fit. But the more I listened to it throughout the weekend, I think it was a pretty well balanced album. But I want to hear back to you your overall thoughts once you started sitting with it. What stood out to you?
Yeah.
What'd you like? What'd you dislike?
So overall, I mean, I thought it was a great album. I don't think it's like his number one album. I definitely don't think so. I still think Birds by far is his number one album. But in terms of this album, it it took me about 2 or 3 rotations fully through the album to kind of realize like, okay, this is actually a great album. First kind of go around, you know, I had some joints that I had picked out that I'm like, damn, you know, like I fuck with this song. But there were a couple that I had to kind of like really listen to over and over again. There's really only one song that I don't like on there, and it's Fiend. And the reason is because of Playboy Cardi. Like I think Playboy Cardi just kind of like wouldn't say ruined the whole song, but he, you know, could have definitely gone without him on there.
I feel you. Almost sounds like a Cardi leftover that like Travis took. I mean, there's something to be said about possible Yeezus leftovers on this album, but that one definitely sounds like a Carti track more than it does a Travis track. So I see what you're saying. And yeah, when that one comes on, I've noticed like it takes me 2 or 3 minutes before I realize it's actually on. I'm like, oh shit, this song's on, and then before I know it, it's done. You know what I mean? So it's weird. It almost sounds like background music compared to the rest of the album.
Yeah, it's like you kind of, you know, you start out good like Hyena, and then you know you get to like God's Country, and you know then you get the song with Drake, Meltdown, and then I think Fiend is right after that. I think it's track number 8, or it might be number 9, and then you get to that, and it's like, all right, like my first thought, I'm like, all right, what the hell, like completely different, you know, in terms of like what's been going on the first 7 or 8 songs, you know, and then after Fiend, then it, you know, then it goes back.
It's a good point. It's almost like
and then you get the UTOPIA twins. And, yeah, it's like, and then I'm like, all right, like I'm not a huge fan of Playboy Cardi as it is. I liked his old shit, like when he first came on the scene, like 2015, I think. He had like the song with Kodak, and then he had a song called Broke Boy as well too. That's when I like Cardi, because he wasn't with like the high, you know, high frequency shit that he does now, where it's like all auto tune and he's just like mumbling and kind of sounds like he's whining sometimes, like over a song.
A little bit. Die Lit, I love Die Lit. That's a great album. So, and then after that, it's kind of gone downhill for me when it comes to Carti. But
yeah, it's been downhill with that.
Die Lit's a great one.
Way downhill after that.
So with me on this album, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I echo what you said. Like it took me 2 or 3 listens to where I'm like, okay, like the first time I'm like, okay, the production's great, but sounds weird. I'm not really sure how this fits. Like I was listening to it on my phone basically. Then the next morning on my way to work and throughout work, I'm listening to it in the car and I'm like, shit, this is a great album. He put his effort into it. Obviously, there was a lot of hype.
It starts to grow on you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this album was supposed to release originally last year at some point. Then the whole fiasco at his concert happened. Maybe even 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was like middle of last year.
For sure.
Might have been. Shit.
For sure. Then he has a fiasco at his concert
for a while.
Yeah. So there was a lot of hype surrounding this album. And I got to say, like, when you're as big of an act as Travis, or you're a Drake, or you're a Future, whoever, there's hype that comes with that album. And at the end of the day, it's, did you meet the hype? Did you not meet the hype? I think he met the hype with this one. You know, he definitely put the effort in. It's a great sounding album. Honestly, if you played all this music for me without Travis and you kept all the features, everything, you could tell me this was a Kanye album, the way it's constructed, all the way down to the features not being listed on the album. You know, you have to go to the, uncredited vocals on Wikipedia and shit if you want to find it. But I thought it was a very well constructed album.
It's crazy that
amazing.
I think
sounding.
so too. And it's crazy that you say that, because the first thing that I noticed was the track list. With how he had it like spelled in like all caps and stuff. That was like, what was it? That reminded me of Donda, the Kanye album. Track list in all caps.
It very much reminded me of Donda. Just the way he threw, similar to Donda, he threw West Side Gun on a track randomly and it fit. That tells me like how serious Travis takes this shit, which I can appreciate. I definitely appreciate that. Give me your standout tracks, like immediately. Like what tracks are you fucking with right now from this album? Top 3, top 5.
So I think top 3, number 1 is Till Further Notice. That's just like one. For me, James Blake and 21 Savage on that song. Just it's great. It's the dark vibe. I think James Blake kind of really sets the tone of that song with the first minute or so that he's on the vocals, and then you've got Travis and then 21. I'd say that's probably number 1. Number 2 is going to be I Know. The more and more I listen to that song, the more and more I fall in love with it. I'd say number 3 probably is the song with West Side Gun.
Fuck with that.
I do love that song.
I'm looking at it now. He actually added the features now to it. So they went and put the features on.
He did.
At least on Spotify. I'm sure it's the same on Apple Music, but now he does have the features. So the one with West Side Gun is Lost Forever.
Yeah, it was track number 15, I believe. That was a good. I really enjoyed that song. Again, that's another James Blake song. And then you get West Side Gun in there, and West Side Gun kind of really just like switches up the whole song.
He really does.
You go from Travis. Yeah. You go from Travis to West Side Gun, which is a little bit more, kind of like lyrical and kind of like a little bit more like East Coast, like, your New York style, rap.
More street.
And then, street. And then I think I got to go with probably UTOPIA Twins, I think, with 21 Savage, and then I think it's Rob 49 or something. That's another good song. And then if I had to pick 5, it's probably K-pop at number 5, I think.
Interesting. That one's grown on me. I will say that. It's grown on me. It fits. You got Love with Kid Cudi right before that, which kind of sounds like K-pop part 1 almost. So it really sets the tone for K-pop.
Yeah.
I'm in full agreement with you. I Know is my favorite track immediately. Like when I was just skimming through on Friday night when it first dropped, when I knew I had to get to sleep, I heard like 30 seconds of it. I'm like, okay, I got to listen to this one immediately tomorrow. So I Know
that's the one right there. Yeah.
Hell yeah. That's the one. And then God's Country, number 2 for me. I like My Eyes. My Eyes is a good one. I'm fucking with Meltdown, but I would agree with you. UTOPIA Twins, the one with West Side Gun, Lost Forever. Till Further Notice, the closing track, like you mentioned, both those go. And Telekinesis, Future and SZA. That one took me by surprise because that one almost sounds like a Future track. That sounds like it could have been on a Future album. Future and SZA, whenever they link up, they seem to do well. Travis and SZA, anything they're on together, they sound great together. They make great music. SZA does dark music really well.
Oh yeah,
she has a ton of different vibes. But let me ask you, you mentioned the Drake verse. How do you feel? Obviously, the biggest takeaway from that is him dropping heat at Pharrell. How he bought like $2 million worth of his chains and burned them allegedly. So he says that seems like a waste of money to me. Uh, what'd you think of the
Yeah,
verse
that's a big waste
overall?
of money. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, exactly. What
um,
do you,
so it's kind of difficult. Like I sometimes it's like all right, like I'm rocking with it, and then sometimes like if I sit there and actually listen to his lyrics, then I'm like, all right, like it sounds super repetitive because
hmm
he's ending with shit at the end of every single bar that he's got.
hmm
Um, I think it in terms of like the sound, it's good, but in terms of like lyrically, I think it's kind of like subpar. I genuinely think that like Drake's music quality is kind of like dropped off, and I'm a huge Drake fan. I love Drake, um, but I do think like his quality has definitely dropped off. Um,
Interesting.
like obviously, like the name, like if you get a Drake feature, like that still carries the same weight that it did, 5, 7, 10 years ago. But
Absolutely.
I think like I don't know. I just don't know if he just doesn't put in enough effort or like what it is. But like, I like the song. I like Travis over him on the song.
I agree with
Um, but like, I didn't hate it, But it was also kind of one of those where I was like, all right, Drake probably could have done a little bit better on this.
That's my exact takeaway. Like, I think the bars are about a 6 out of 10 for Drake. I think Travis got him on this song,
Yeah,
especially when you're comparing it to Sicko Mode, because that's what they're coming off of, which is a 10 out of 10. That was the song of
yeah,
2018, arguably. Um,
yeah,
and I thought the bars he sent to Push and Pharrell, they were okay. He's doing that weird whisper flow, which there was no need for that. Overall, it was just weird. Like
yeah. That didn't really fit him.
I feel like Drake does this thing, which he can get away with because he has such a following, where he kind of almost buries the lead. He'll say something that he knows is going to trend on Twitter. And then, like, I feel this way about the Meek
Hmm.
Mill beef. To take it back to the Meek Mill beef, I feel like Back to
Hmm.
Back, that was a great song. But, like, I heard it, I don't know, it came on a couple weeks ago. And I'm like, this is a pretty weak beef track altogether. Like, as a diss track, that's a 5
Yeah,
out
it
of
is.
10. The song itself is great. It's a great song. But as far as a beef track, it's not Ether. It's not Takeover. It's not, anything we've heard, or the game. The game's a
Yeah,
legendary
it's
diss
not.
track artist. Like, it's nothing. It's not on par with that to me. So yeah, like, I agree
No,
with you.
yeah,
I think it
definitely not.
sounds fine. He flows well in the song. Like, it's a solid Drake verse, but I don't think it's any. It's not a classic verse by him. It's not his verse on Sicko Mode. It's not any of that. So
Yeah, I think if you put it next to Sicko Mode, I definitely think Sicko Mode blows it out of the water in terms of his verse on there.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm interested because it seems like Push is gearing up for new music here. I'm interested what his retort is, if he's gonna take it all the way to 12, because he came
Mm,
in with Pharrell. That's family. So
yeah.
I'm really interested to see how that escalates. Pusha is known to take it to 12. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Hey, maybe we get another Drake Pusha beef.
I I think that's where we're heading. I think that's where we're heading. And it's weird because
I wouldn't
go ahead, go ahead.
I wouldn't be mad with that. I wouldn't be mad
I
with that
love
at
it.
all.
I love it. We need more of that in hip hop. And it's weird
Oh
because
yeah, there's not
Drake,
enough of that now.
you're 100% correct. I feel like Drake keeps poking the bear. I don't know if he really wants that with Push, because I mean, we saw what happened the first time. Drake will survive it no matter what. He's got such a good following, but yeah, man, we need that. And Push for sure ain't gonna back down. It's weird that Kanye was the subject of the last one, and then now this is seems just like pure old fashioned hate, which I love. So yeah, I think by the time we get to
Yeah,
October, once football season's right in the swing of things, I think we'll be in a heated beef between these two for sure.
I think so. You give it some. I agree with that. You give it some time to brew, and I think really all it takes for it to really just go off is for Push just to maybe not even a whole diss track if he just sneaks in one or two bars and a guest feature or something, or maybe in a song of his own. Then I really think that's all it takes. I don't. I agree with you though. I don't know if Drake really wants that. I don't know if Drake can go bar for bar with Push. I don't.
I would agree with that.
Like
I
that.
would agree with that. See, it's interesting. So
That's kind of.
go ahead. I'll let you finish. My fault. My fault.
Oh no, you're good. I just say I just don't think he wants it. I think he might get burned on that one.
you brought up an interesting topic that seems to be frequent whenever me and Keenan talk about music or we have someone else on and we're talking Drake, is you think his quality of music fell off. See, which I kind of agree with. I think like we said with Travis, his construction of this album, I don't think we've seen Drake take an album that serious by himself for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know how you feel, but Her Loss with 21, I feel like that's a great album. I feel like they're in synergy. I feel like that's some of Drake's best rapping, period, throughout his whole career. But I don't feel like he makes that kind of music by himself, By himself, I don't think we've gotten that quality.
He doesn't. I honestly, like, the last Drake album, Solo, I loved Her Loss. Like, I loved it. I still listen to it very heavily. I agree. I think they pair up real nice on every single track. I don't think they can make bad music together. But in terms of him solo, I think the last album that I can sit here and say that I enjoyed from track one to track whatever it be would be probably Views. Okay. I think, because it's he had that's 2015, 2016. And he's had good songs on the the past couple albums he's dropped, but there's also like a lot of like tracks where I kind of feel like, all right, he really just threw it on here just to see if it would stick, or like maybe just to get a couple extra tracks in there. But I think since then, what was it? I forget what the name of it was. It was in 2017. I actually did like that one.
More Life?
I don't remember what the name of it was. Yeah, More Life. More Life.
It's one of my favorites.
That one I liked, and then I can actually say after that, that's where it kind of like where it kind of started, tailing off in terms of his quality.
I'd agree with that. And with Drake, I mentioned this with Keenan, on his albums, even if they don't flow like the fuck was his last one, Certified Lover Boy, before Her Loss, his last solo. Like, I don't think that album flows together at all. I think exactly what you just said, like how he just throws shit together. I think that album's full of that. I feel like the Girls Love Girls, I feel like that could have just been a baby track. Drake didn't even need to be on it. Yeah. That being said, he still's got that like In Too Deep, all those are still 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 type Drake tracks. They just don't, it seems so out of place on the album kind of thing. But yeah, he's such a good artist. You're still going to get high quality tracks, but the albums altogether might not be like Utopia. Let me ask you, out of all the features, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, out of all the features, what's your favorite? And then I want to add to that, what'd you think of the Beyonce feature?
A favorite on the album.
I mean, you did mention James Blake, so that might be, I might have buried.
Yeah, it's. I mean, honestly, like I think it's got to be James Blake or 21 Savage until further notice. Love the West Side Gun feature, but I think in terms of like music that appeals to me the most, I love 21 Savage. I've always been a huge fan of his. It's got to be Blake or 21 Savage. I mean, just because the fact that they both fit into that song so well. I think I'd probably throw West Side Gun. West Side Gun is definitely up there too. And top 3. But I think I'm gonna go with 21 Savage on this until further notice. That's probably going to be my favorite verse. As far as Beyonce, I like the Beyonce on Echoes. Like, I thought it was kind of like a little bit of a different track, but I did enjoy it. Like, I thought it was a good quality track.
That's definitely one of the Yeezus inspired tracks for sure. I do genuinely wonder, because of Mike Dean's involvement on this album. I believe he executive produced it. I wonder how much of these were actually Kanye leftovers. Like, were these Kanye tracks at one point, whether it's Donda, whether it's Yeezus, like, were they? Because the sound is uncanny. I mean, you can't. Yeah. What is it? What's track 3? Where's my phone at? Like, the fuck is it? A few ones. The Beyonce one for sure. Uh, what else we got here? My Eyes. That could
I've seen
be
the
it.
Kid Cudi track too.
The Kid Cudi one, Modern Jam. That's the one that definitely sounds like a Yeezus track. Like there's the handprints of Kanye are all over this album. It's incredible. I would agree with you. I think 21 wins this album. He bodied each feature he was on. I don't think he gets enough credit for how much he's improved his rapping ability since he first came out. So for me, he wins the album. I would agree with you though. James Blake, like the more I'm thinking about it, like him and Travis are just so in tune together. Like they kind of like how Kanye and Ty Dolla. I feel like Kanye and Dolla do a lot of good music together. Like, and they should do more. Like they could do a collab album. Now that you mentioned it, Travis and James Blake could definitely do a collab album, and I'd listen to that shit. So yeah, no, I'll give Travis this, whether it's him or Mike Dean, who like did more of the features or reaching out. I don't know, but he's got a really good ear for who would fit where. Because I don't really particularly like the Beyonce track, but she fits on it. I never thought SZA would have fit on a track like that, but she does. He threw Young Thug on it, so that fits. Like everybody fits on this album. Nobody really sounds out of place, maybe with the exception of Carti, but it's a dark enough sound to where it fits to me. But yeah, I would say 21
to where he doesn't, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like.
I love, like I said, I love 21. I do agree with that though. 21's like came a long way as an artist. Like from when he first came on the scene with what was it, Savage Mode, and then Slaughter King was the album he dropped before that. But he's definitely came a long way as an artist, like for sure.
Underrated is the collab album he did with was it Offset early on?
Yeah, underrated. And then he did a no, Offset was the Metro Boomin album.
Yeah. Without Warning, I believe.
It came out in like 20. Yeah, Without Warning. Yeah, Without Warning. Yep.
That's an underrated one.
Yep, that was
the 21
Offset album with Metro. I love that album.
So
I love that album. That album's got a few songs that I
absolutely. That's got some heat on it. Give me some underrated artists, in your opinion, that do not get enough shine today.
In terms of just artists in general?
Artists in general. Could be rap, could be R&B, could be anything.
So, I think the first person that comes to my mind, and I'm a huge fan of them, is Jid, JID. I love his music, and I feel like he should be a bigger artist than what he is right now. Like I genuinely do.
Rap.
Like
he's one that grew on me.
Yeah, he doesn't, like, to me at least, he doesn't put out bad music. Like I can't think of a song that I hate that he's made or that he's been featured on. Obviously 21 Savage is another one. I feel like you still have those people that are like, oh, he's just more of like a trap artist, and he's definitely not now. 5 years ago, yeah, you can say that, but now, like, I don't think you can say that at all because he's so versatile. You can put him on. I mean, hell, he did a track with Summer Walker. 5-6 years ago, he's not doing that shit. So I think 21's another one. And then, I mean, I've got a whole list. I like a lot of my East Coast rappers. Benny the Butcher, Jim Jones. I mean, there's a ton of people that I think that don't get the love that they deserve. But I think Jid and 21 Savage are definitely like up there.
Who's an artist that comes on? Someone plays it in the car. Someone plays it at the house. And you're like, cut this shit the fuck off. I do not want to hear it. I don't care how popular this artist is. I don't care how not popular this artist is. I don't care that I haven't heard him much. Get him the fuck off my playlist. Like, who? Give me an artist.
It's going to be one of them, like I said earlier, Playboy Carti. Unless it's Die Lit. He's got the song with Uzi, and he's got a couple songs on there with Nudie. Young Nudie, that's the other one I forgot about. Young Nudie is another guy that I feel like is super underrated.
I'd agree with that. I
love Young Nudie.
I don't listen to a ton of him, but he's one that, like, everything I do here, Sounds like heat.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree. He's got some. I've listened to every project he's put out. He's got a song with 21 Savage, "Peaches and Eggplants," which is an absolute. I love that song. It's an absolute banger. It's actually one of Nudi's more popular songs, and I think it came out first of the year or so. But he's definitely underrated. But yeah, Playboy Cardi, like anything other than Dial It, like that shit's gotta fucking go. Like, do not get in my vehicle and play Whole Lot of Red because
That's a terrible album.
Yeah, your phone's gonna go out the window. You know, Playboy.
I remember when that album dropped. I'm like, look, there's a lot of hype around it. Let me listen to it, and I could not make it to track 5. It just sounded like a bunch of sounds, like it really did. And like you said, on top of his like moaning or sounding like a fucking cat, like he tends to on these tracks.
It was too fucking much.
It was too much. It was too
Bro,
much. And like you said,
yes.
it's disappointing because he's capable. Like he's definitely got a weird sound, and off-putting sound, even his early music. But he found a way to make that shit work.
Yeah.
Much like Travis on this album. It sounds like a lot when you first listen to it, especially the Yeezus inspired tracks, but it works. He's got, the production's great, but yeah, man, a Whole Lot of Red just sounds like a bunch of noise, really.
He could have left that shit in the vault. I mean, seriously. He could have just lock it away and put it away for good.
I don't know who that album was for exactly, but so wait, how do you feel on that topic then? How do you feel about Uzi's latest release? Because that's, I think, the highest selling, highest streamed hip hop album, if you even want to call it a hip hop album of the year.
Of the year. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. In terms of like, I understand, artists evolve and stuff like that. But what I like to do is I like to go back and compare it to like other projects they've released. It just, in terms of, what is it, Love is Rage, and then, Uzi versus the World, 1 and 2. I thought it was a little subpar compared to those. There were some songs that I liked off of it, but it wasn't one of those albums where I sat there and like I could listen to it over and over again. Like I gave it 1, maybe 2 pastors, and then after that I was like, all right, I'm kind of done with this.
And it's a lot of tracks too. I believe it's over 20 tracks, correct? Excuse me.
Yeah, I think it's like 20, close to 25. I think there might be 24. I want to say.
That's insane. Insane.
It's up there.
I didn't listen to it all the way through. I did hear stuff that sounded like Heat, honestly. And then I heard tracks that are like very rock inspired, which fits. Like he's definitely a artist that's inspired by rock, but some of it sounded like way the fuck out there. Not saying maybe in a different setting it might not sound good, but to me, just to my ear, I'm like kind of like the Car T shit. Like I don't know how I feel about this. It's a lot of noise kind of thing.
Yeah,
but in general, I did the 8 to 10 tracks that I listened to. I heard some stuff that was all right, but I haven't gave it a true honest listen. So maybe I got to get to that sometime here before the summer ends.
I feel like I could do the same, but like I said, kind of like the first skip through I did. I kind of like the first 5 or 6 tracks. I was like, all right, there was 2 that I liked. And normally when I get 6, 7, 8 tracks deep into an album, I can kind of tell if I'm gonna like it or not. And I kind of like started skipping around. I'm going based off of song titles. I'm like, all right, based off of Uzi, like what do I think is going to sound good? And more often than not, I'm playing it, and I get like the rock vibes and stuff. And then I'm like, all right, like that's not doing it for me, So then I'm like, all right, next song. And then eventually I got the point where I'm like, all right, there's too many damn songs on here. I'm not going to sit here for 3 hours and listen to this shit.
I feel that. I feel you there. So let me ask you, as an avid music listener, what's your process when you listen to albums? Do you have a specific process? For example, like I kind of told you, like with Utopia, I listened to it on my phone, skimmed through it. If I don't have time, I'll skim through like 10 seconds of each album or each song, see what I might like, see how I feel, like through, because you can't get a grip for anything in 10 seconds, really, unless you really love it.
Yeah, so no.
My first skim through, I'm like, what the hell is this kind of thing? Like, it sounds like a lot of noise. Then I'll listen to it in my car. If it's something I really want to listen to, I'll listen to it all the way through in my car. Then I'll listen to it on my speaker at my house. And then after that, like after 2 or 3 listens, I put it on shuffle and see if I like it just as much on shuffle as I do like, tracks 1 through
and then, yeah, I definitely I agree with that. I kind of do some of the same. I normally start off if I'm at home. Normally, I'll throw my earbuds in and I'll start on track 1. But I agree with the whole listening in the car thing. For me, like if I'm really gonna like an album, I got to be able to listen to it in the car. If I can't listen to it in my car, then it's not gonna work for me.
100%.
And then Bluetooth speaker, I agree with that too. I'll turn on my Bluetooth speaker when I get home and I'll play, Madden 2K or whatever. And I just sit there and listen to it. And I'm listening, for the beats. Like I think other than lyrics, I think the beat is probably the most important thing for the song. Because if the beat don't grab me, then chances are I'm not gonna like the song.
I'd agree with you there 100%.
And then
I completely listen to the music more than the lyrics.
Yeah.
Like,
so where do you think in terms of Travis's projects, where do you think this ranks at between Astroworld, Birds, Rodeo?
I've thought of this a lot. It's tough because I think all 4 of those projects that you named are all quality. I think, gun to my head, I think Astroworld's the best. Like, I think that's the best music, track 1 to track whatever. I think Birds in the Trap is probably my favorite. I just remember vividly when I heard it, what tracks I liked immediately, da-da-da. I don't think it's necessarily good as good as Astroworld, but I think that's my favorite. Number 2 would be Astroworld for me as far as favorites. 3 would probably be this album, Utopia. And then 4 is Rodeo, which is crazy because Rodeo, damn, I don't know. See, when you put it like that, it's very hard to rank them. I think this was...
I've been going back and forth. Like, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? I mean,
I would say this. I think as far as like the work he put into them, I would say 1 and 2 in some order are Utopia and Astroworld because the production on both of those albums is insane.
Yeah.
And the production is great on all the albums, but specifically those 2, they sound fucking incredible. Like the first time I heard Astroworld, it was like an experience. You know what I mean? Like similar to this, but he really took you to Astroworld. It felt like, you feel like you're in space when you listen to that album.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, it's hard to rank them because those are 4 quality albums. And when you put it like that, honestly, like that puts Travis in such a different sphere when it comes to his era of music.
Yeah.
Because, he's still he came a couple years after Drake and Cole, but he's still in that era, you know? So, I mean, it kind of puts him in the upper echelon, which he already was, but I might sound crazy for saying this.
It kind of catapults him a little bit more.
Yeah, it almost puts him in the Kanye sphere. Not in the level of artist, but the fact that he put out 4 undeniable quality of works with Rodeo, then into Birds.
I do agree with that.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that's a crazy statement at all because the thing is like, I mean, how many artists can you really sit here and say like, okay, they put out 4 quality projects that you can sit there and listen to, from track 1 to track whatever, or, 85, 90% of the tracks. And
that's a good point.
Then it has, a replayable effect to it where you can come back. I mean, because like you said, like Rodeo, like that's a great album. That was 2015, and there's songs that I guarantee that probably you and I both listen to still, and here we are, 7, 8 years later. Same thing with Astroworld. Astroworld's 4 years old now, and same thing. It's got the replayability to it.
Absolutely. And when you put it like that,
I think this album.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I think this album is gonna have. I think there's tracks on here that definitely I'll see myself, 4 or 5 years from now still listening to, like bumping pretty heavily that are still going to be in the rotation.
I'd agree with that. I think what's different about this album maybe to the other ones is you almost have to listen to this album all the way through to get the whole vision of it. Like I Know is one of the only ones, and maybe K-pop. I feel like there's only a short number of tracks on this album that you can really just throw on and not just be like, okay, what the fuck did I just listen to? Like if you had a group of people over, you know what I mean? There's few tracks like that. Whereas if you listen to it all the way through, the song before it might make sense, the song after it might make sense. Topia Twins you could definitely play by itself, and Meltdown you could play by itself. But totality, I think you almost have to listen to this album all the way through. Whereas the other three you don't. You can play those on shuffle, and it sounds great. And this one sounds great on shuffle too. But
I agree.
Maybe a little out of place just with some other songs on there, and the length of them, and if there's talking in between, whatever. But man, when you put it like that, you said like all four of these albums, not many skips on any of the four. That's hard to do. That's hard to do for any artist where you got four albums that are 15 plus tracks, and you have low skippability on all four albums. Yeah, that puts you in a different type of tier. Because there's not many artists.
That's difficult to do.
It's difficult to do. I never really thought of that.
And the only reason that I brought up between the four albums, a buddy of mine who he lives out in California, he's a big Travis Scott fan too. He hit me up. Was it yesterday? He told me, he's like, all right, he's like, I want the whole weekend. I'm gonna listen to it. I'm gonna give you my opinion on Monday morning. Mm-hmm. So he texted me yesterday, and he's like, all right, he's like, my final decision's in. He's like, I love the album. So he asked me, he's like, all right, he's like, what do you think's the best album? And that's when my gears started turning, because I'm like, damn, like, those are four really fucking great albums.
It's hard.
Like, it's damn near difficult or impossible to pick between those four because they're all good.
They're all great.
Yeah.
They're all great. Man. Yeah. Man, it would be hard for me to pick between, like, the more I'm thinking about it, between Astro World and Birds in the Trap. And then I feel like Rodeo's just got so many classics on that album. Yeah, it's hard to pick. It's definitely hard to pick. Shit. So off of that, give me some of your favorite projects of 2023 so far.
Okay. Let's see. Let me go on my catalog. Did I go off the screen? So obviously it's Travis. Let's see who else has dropped this year. Let me go over here in my Apple Music real quick. Definitely Travis. Man, there's so many, but off the top of my head, I'm having difficulty remembering who else dropped this year because there's so much music.
I feel you there.
Let's see.
I'll give you one of mine. Mm-hmm. This dropped at the very top of the year, and that's Coke Boy 6, French Montana.
Okay.
Mainly because it sounded very much like the old Coke Boy mixtapes. Did not give me an album feel at all. It's exactly what I want to hear out of French, who, by the way, you want to talk about someone who's grown as an artist, French Montana does not get enough credit for that, I believe, as far as rapping, as far as song making, all that. So that's one that I was listening to heavy from January, probably up until March, honestly. I haven't really gone back to it this summer. It's more winter music. But that's one of my favorites so far. And like you said, it is kind of hard to go back and see what's dropped this year and what you have and have not listened to.
Because there's a lot of music. That's like, I'm sitting here right now scrolling through and I'm looking and I'm like, well, there's a ton of stuff. I mean, there really is.
There is.
Oh, man.
Oh, I like the K Tronada and Amin, or Amina, however you say it. That's a good album.
Yeah, that's a good album.
All the way through.
I liked, I'm sitting here right now, there was a lot of, like, I will say the one thing about this year, like, there was a lot of big artists that dropped, like Moneybagg Yo, Lil Durk dropped.
Right.
I didn't really listen to the Lil Durk album, like, all the way through. The Moneybagg Yo album, Hard to Love, kind of same thing. Like, there were some loose cuts on there that I liked, but nothing crazy. What else is there?
I'll give you another one. It just dropped 2 weeks ago now, maybe 3 weeks ago. It's Dave East's album, Fortune Favors the Bold. That's a great album. Great production.
I do like Dave East.
You can always count on rapping when it comes to Dave East. And I don't know. I feel like, much like I said about Travis, how serious he took it, I feel like this is Dave's most serious album. Whether it's better than all of his albums, I think he's been pretty consistent, has remained underrated. We talked about underrated artists earlier. Dave East is definitely one. But that's a great project. I completely forgot Moneybagg dropped. He dropped only, about a month ago, 2 months ago? It was not long ago.
Yeah, about I'd say probably about a month and a half, 2 months ago.
Yeah, and I remember I skimmed through it, and there's shit I like on there. So now I feel like I really got to go back and play that because that's perfect summer music, perfect ball music. I remember he's got a track with Future on there that I like. I agree with you. I wasn't really feeling Dirk's album as much. I'm not. Maybe this is an unpopular.
I definitely wasn't.
Maybe this is an unpopular opinion. I didn't really go with the Dirk wave because there was 2-3 years there where he was like the hottest thing smoking. It seemed like, and Moneybagg's been on a big run too these last 2 years. I don't know. Dirk kind of falls into that category for me, and Lil Baby's kind of falling into this category for me, where a lot of their music sounds too much alike to me. Not that it's bad music at all, because it's not. I think they put out quality music, but I feel like it's repetitive. You feel that way as well when you listen to someone like Dirk?
I agree with that because, like, even so, like, I have a lot of Dirk stuff when he was like relatively kind of like underground, like when the Chicago rap scene was like really popping off.
Sure.
And like I listened to some of his shit from like 2014 or 2015. Like there was an album he dropped, I think it was 2015. I think I was in high school at the point. It was the one where he had that song with Jeremiah, Like Me.
Yeah. Yep.
And I went back through and I'm like, all right, he had a song on there with Logic as well too, that was one of the songs it's one of my favorite Dirk songs. And I went back through and kind of listened to some of that shit from 14 to 15 and compared to now, and you've got a 7-8 year time span where a lot of his shit, like you said, does sound the fucking same. And it's like there's no evolution to his music. It's
and you feel that way about 2015 music? You feel like he was still doing that kind of melodic, I don't want to say trap, but that melodic like gangsta sound?
Yeah, I agree. And even with Lil Baby too. Lil Baby, I agree with that too. Lil Baby's kind of like one of those artists where I liked him when he first came out, and now it's like, all right, like kind of getting a little tired of him.
You saying Lil Baby, that reminds me.
His shit.
So Gunna's project I really liked. Gunna dropped a few weeks back. I think the same weekend as Moneybagg Yo, actually. I remember it preceded a big project, and maybe that's why I didn't listen to it as much, but I really liked Gunna's album that he put out, and he showed growth on that one. He wasn't doing as much of his, like he tends to sound like Young Thug, which is why they make great music together, Thug and Gunna. But this last album, he's rapping. He's really, trying to get his story across of what he went through the last year and a half. So I was impressed with that.
I think
one.
He
That's one of my
separated himself from Thug with that.
I agree, and Baby a little bit. Just the way, you talk about.
Yeah.
We mentioned like how Drake kind of sounds unmotivated. I think Lil Baby sounds unmotivated with a lot of these tracks he's put out, because he's been putting out. He dropped the end of last year. He dropped, I believe, or maybe it was even last summer.
Yep.
And he's put out like 4 or 5 Lucy's since then. And if you played them all for me back to back to back, I probably wouldn't know the difference between them, honestly.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that too, another artist that actually just popped up in my head, kind of like Lil Baby type is Roddy Ricch. Like Roddy Ricch is another guy where it's like a lot of his stuff kind of is starting to sound a little on the repetitive side.
I can agree with that. He's put out some good music though. Not that Baby hasn't, but yeah, you're right. It can still be good and still be repetitive. Yeah, Roddy does have a kind of signature sound to him. And yeah, Baby just seems to keep going with this like speed rap.
Yeah.
Song, like singy-songy hook. Kind of like Whoa. It almost seems like he's trying to catch that Whoa track again when he doesn't need to, because he's a super talented artist. Like I feel like the level he could go up to, like people were comparing him to Lil Wayne 2 years ago, which I think is fucking insane. I think that's absolutely insane.
Yeah, I remember that shit.
Yeah, like that's disrespectful to Weezy. No offense to Lil Baby, and Baby can rap too, but I just feel like there's more of him as an artist that he hasn't reached yet. And who knows, maybe within a year, 2 years, maybe he'll reach that. Who knows? But I mean, that happens with artists just like it happens with athletes. You get the money. Sometimes your soul kind of leaves, what originally brought you to the game. So, but we'll keep it music for right now. We'll keep it music for right now because I do have some sports questions for later. But let me ask you on the R&B tip: who's catching your ear when it comes to R&B? Whether it's male R&B, female R&B, who are some of your favorites?
So I've been big into R&B. I've definitely talked to you about this. I think I've probably shown you a couple songs too. I've been big into R&B I'd say probably the past year or two. I'm kind of branching out on that. I've been listening to a lot of that, and there's a couple guys that I really like. One of them is Tone Stith. I think he makes great R&B music. He's kind of got like a older, kind of gives you like the '90s R&B vibe. I like
Does 90s R&B
Day.
samples.
Day is good.
Day's good. Day's underrated.
Yeah.
So that's another one I got to check out because they came out with an album earlier this year. I downloaded, but I did not listen to. I got to listen to that.
I love that album.
Good to know.
I love that album. That album. I actually totally forgot about that. I'm glad you said that because when that came out, I don't remember if that dropped the same time other big projects did, but I think that was the first project that I listened to.
It was earlier on. It was,
and
I want to say it was like end of winter maybe area, but yeah, I want to say that was a good 3-4 months ago maybe. But yeah, no, I got to listen to that.
I think that was
Day's underrated.
Definitely good project. I like Division. I know Division's not really, under the radar anymore, or underrated, but I think Division is probably one of the better R&B acts that exists now.
I actually hated on Division
and then
for a good part of their existence up until the last album they dropped, which was, I believe, the end of last year. I really liked that album. The last album they dropped. And actually, I like the collab album with Ty Dolla, but I'm a big Dollar fan. Before that, I truly thought Division was underrated or overrated. Sorry, I truly thought they were overrated. I didn't get the hype. I didn't like the vibe. I didn't feel like his voice, the lead singer there, I didn't feel like it fit the vibe because they're technically a duo, correct?
Yeah, they're technically a duo. I think he does all the vocals though. I think the other cat does all the producing and stuff.
Production. Got you. Yeah, I never thought his voice fit the vibe, but I don't know the name of the last album, but I listened to that heavy towards the end of last year and it really grew on me. I actually got to go back to that. They grew on me. I'll give them that because I think I even said on this podcast when it came out that like if it didn't meet my expectations, that I was just gonna give up on Division completely because there's people in my life who like fucking love Division who are like, nah, they this that, and I'm like, I don't see it, but no, I definitely fuck with the last album.
Yeah, I've liked them since I think it was 2015 where they released their first album. I think Drake was the one that put him on. I think on Faithful when he did that Pimp C sample off of Views where he had Amber Rose on the intro. I think that was kind of when Division first. I could be wrong, but I think that was kind of when they first kind of really like started gaining some momentum was because of that Drake song.
That makes sense, and I think they're from Toronto.
Like I said, I could be wrong. I think so. And then I think that's when they put out that first album, and they had a couple loose ones on there that I liked, and then I think in 2017 they dropped another one. I think it's called Morning After or something, and then a couple ones here and there, and then they did the remake of Usher's Nice and Slow. They sampled that, and that was another song that I loved.
That was decent.
What's that girl's name? Snow Allegra. And
Snow's
then
good. Snow just
the joint album with Ty Dolla $ign.
That was good.
She did. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I want to say it might have even been last week with Travis. Might have been the same week as Travis.
Really?
in post.
Oh shit! I didn't realize that. I didn't realize, like I told you earlier, I didn't even realize that Post Malone had dropped. I really didn't.
Yeah, I actually, because we briefly talked about Post before we got on. I actually listened to that or skimmed
Mm-hmm.
through it really before I listened to Travis's album, or before I skimmed through Travis's album, I should say. Um, I kind of knew what
Mm-hmm.
direction he was going to go in because it seems like his last couple projects he's been leaning towards rock more. But he seems
Mm-hmm.
like he's such a versatile artist that there's still stuff that would appeal to me, even though I don't really listen to that style, which is true because I put a couple in a specific playlist and it worked. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
probably not a
Yeah.
album I'll listen to 1 through 15 or whatever it is, but there's definitely some good songs on there. He's definitely a talented artist. He's definitely an upper echelon artist as far as someone who's going to put effort to a project. Um, but I'm definitely not listening to him maybe like I was those first two, which were definitely more hip hop and R&B themed. He's ventured away from that,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
but yeah, he still has a capability of putting good music out, but it's definitely far off from what the Post Malone we were introduced to. So
Yeah. That's. I think it's a far cry from what was it, Stony? I think
mm-hmm.
with when he had the song with what was it, Justin Bieber, Deja Vu, and then
Mm.
had the song with 2 Chainz, Money Made Me Do It. That was a great album. So it's definitely far cry from that. But I do agree though, Post Malone's definitely talented enough to where I think he's gonna make music, and I think the music that he makes is gonna appeal to a certain crowd of people, whether it's your hip hop community, pop community, whatever it is. I think he's gonna have a strong fan base no matter what he does.
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, one more question for you on the R&B tip before I branch into sports,
Mm-hmm.
because we'll be talking R&B here very soon. What's your opinion
Mm-hmm.
on the career arc of the Weeknd?
It's actually crazy that you brought that up because a buddy of mine, we were having the same conversation probably about a month ago or so. Um, that's honestly a tough one for me because of the fact that I feel like I feel like he kind of went away from his roots. Um, I just don't really the last couple of projects like Dawn FM was I think it was okay to good, but it wasn't great compared to Beauty Behind the Madness and even his stuff, Wicked Games, all that. Um, in my mind, and it's just my personal opinion, I think he kind of went downhill a little bit, kind of like trajectory wise, like with his compared to his earlier stuff and up to 2016, 2017, even 2018 with Starboy, because Starboy was kind of like when he really, I guess you could say, kind of really started changing up his music and
Mm-hmm.
his sound,
Mm-hmm.
which I did like Starboy. There is some songs on there where I'm like, all right, skip this shit. I'm not listening to it. But I think that's when he kind of really started changing. And then from there, I was kind of like, all right, I wasn't really rocking with it at that point. After that, I still do The Weeknd still is one of my favorite artists, but his latest couple of albums are more so one of I'm like, all right, there's a couple songs on there that I really fuck with, and then there's some songs all right, get this shit off. I'm not fucking listening to it.
It's definitely for a specific setting. It's definitely 80s up tempo inspired. It's definitely different to say the
Yeah,
least. And it's hard for me to listen to because that's just not what I normally listen to, obviously. So I
yeah,
get
I
what you're
agree.
saying. And I completely agree with you. Probably around the late 2010s is where it really started to change for him. It's crazy because he's on the level of a Bad Bunny or a Drake as far as popularity. Like when he could drop
Yeah,
shit and it's still gonna get played all over. And I don't think I might not like the music, but I think it's still quality music. I think he's still putting effort in. But like you said, where he was 2011, 2012, the type of music he was dropping, uh, I never. If you would have told me in
compared to now,
2011 that he'd be dropping 80s inspired music that's up tempo, I never would have guessed that. Um, that being said, he did his thing on
I agree
Travis's
on that.
album,
I agree.
but Yeah, I never would have guessed. I never would have guessed with him. But yeah, a little preview here. We'll be doing an R&B heavy podcast this Thursday featuring Branndon Petty with a couple other guests. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait to get into that.
Oh yeah, I'm ready for that.
Anything more you want to touch on for music, or do you want to transition to sports here?
I mean, it's up to you. We can go to sports. I don't care.
Hey, if you got any other music questions, I'm with it. No? All right. Well, let's.
Yeah, like I said, I'm good.
We've talked a lot of basketball, me and you, over the last month, especially with free agency. So I want to gear it towards more football. I want to hear, and we'll probably definitely have you on for football throughout the season, before the season, whichever. But give me, without giving me the totality of it, give me what you think the trajectory of this Jags team, because you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. Give me what you think the trajectory of their season is going to be. Do you see them, back in the divisional round? Do you think it's a step back year? Do you think, what do you think of them and the NFC South in general? AFC South, I should say.
I think so. I think it's going to be a step forward. I think definitely back in the divisional round. At least I wouldn't be surprised if we sneak into the AFC Conference Championship. Okay. I think the offense is good enough. I think Calvin Ridley. I think people are really overlooking Calvin Ridley,
that was a good pick
big time. A lot of people forgetting that, what was it, 2020 or 2021? I think he had close to 1,600 yards. That was with an injured Julio Jones too. The dude's one of the best separators in the NFL, one of the best route runners in the NFL. He's just a dog. I mean, I can tell you around here in Jacksonville, a lot of people are excited. I mean, there's training camp on Saturday morning at 7:45 in the morning. It was packed. You couldn't even sit down at training camp, which is wild for Jacksonville. Yeah, I definitely think I'm thinking 10 to 12 wins. I don't think the AFC South is going to be very competitive. You got two rookie quarterbacks and then another team that's got an aging quarterback and their receivers. So I don't think it's going to be super competitive. A lot of question marks. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if they were the worst team, if not the second worst team in the AFC South this year.
Damn.
That's how bad I think their offense is. I could be wrong.
Who do you think comes in second then? If Jacksonville takes the division, who do you think's the challenger in the AFC South?
See, that's the part that I wrestle with, because it's all right, you look at Indianapolis. Indianapolis has Anthony Richardson. Love Anthony Richardson, huge Gator fan, but rookie quarterbacks don't necessarily translate well their first year. Houston's got CJ Stroud, same thing. But then you go to Tennessee. Tennessee, it's all right, is it going to be Ryan Tannehill? Is it going to be Malik Willis? Is it going to be Will Levis? A lot of people are assuming Tannehill. If Tannehill gets hurt, then who's it going to be? Yeah, you still have Derrick Henry, but in terms of the skill position, you don't really have anybody. I mean, it's Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks was hurt all last year. You don't really know what you have in him. He's definitely not, your Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave type of second-year receivers where they're coming off of a 1,000-yard season, and it's all right, we have a bona fide number one receiver. Treylon Burks is like that guy where you kind of getting a lot of question marks. All right, is he going to be good enough? Can you separate consistently in the NFL? What's going on with that? And then Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's only gotten a year older, and eventually he's going to start wearing down. And he's at that age right now where those running backs start to really slow down. You kind of see a decline with all their metrics and stats. So I think if I had to pick, I think Indianapolis could be good if they resolve with Jonathan Taylor, if they resolve the whole Jonathan Taylor thing.
Yeah, because he just requested a trade. That's right.
Yeah.
And they got some other drama. Who the fuck else? They just had someone else the other day request, or maybe it was just Jonathan Taylor. Maybe that's the one I'm thinking of. But I feel like someone else.
Taylor. And then, they did have that corner that got suspended for gambling.
That's true. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it was I think it was Isaiah Rodgers or somebody got suspended, I think indefinitely.
and they got a new coach. They got a lot of question marks over there. I wonder about the Colts organization in general since Andrew Luck left. They've been pretty successful, but I mean, I don't know how you fire a guy like Frank Wright, who you're asking him to play quarterback roulette each year, and he's leading you to the playoffs or damn near close each year, and you fire that guy. That makes me wonder about the stability. How do you feel about DeAndre signing to the Titans? Because you said you feel like they have no skill positions.
I forgot. I did forget about that, actually. I did forget about that.
Do you feel like he's washed? I mean, he had the suspension last year. He missed a lot of time. He was with one of the worst organizations in the league last year with Arizona. Do you feel like he can revive Tannehill or revive anything? Julio went there and died. Like, Julio seems like he's done as an impact guy. It seems like he's been that way for about 3 years. So how do you feel about DeAndre with this team?
I think I totally forgot about that. I totally forgot they signed him. I think DeAndre still got something left in the tank, but the only thing that concerns me is their defense is going to blanket him. Like, they could easily, he's going to see teams' number one corners. He's going to see your Marlon Humphreys, your Sauce Gardners, all those guys. What concerns me is if teams blanket a safety over that way, because if they blanket a safety over that way, then I feel like that's really going to slow down Tennessee. And then I don't know if I really trust Ryan Tannehill to consistently be able to get the ball to him, because I feel like Tannehill's kind of taken a step back the past couple of years. But I mean, I definitely think DeAndre Hopkins has something left in the tank. I hope he does. I'm a big DeAndre Hopkins fan. He's been one of my favorite receivers in the league for quite some time, pretty much ever since he came in with Houston.
Sure.
But I think things could go south if you don't see Hop from 2 years ago pre-injury, first year in Arizona, second year in Arizona even. I think it could get ugly. But like I said, I think he's got something left in the tank.
One thing with Tennessee is I think Vrabel is a phenomenal coach. Like, I think Vrabel is a top 5-6 coach in the league. So I feel like he can almost get you 8 to 10 wins no matter what, and kind of put the fear of God in you. Like, if you're like a game or two ahead and you got a late season game at Tennessee, I feel like they could put the fear of God in you guys, maybe. But not necessarily. They don't have the all around talent that Jacksonville does. You mentioned 12 wins for Jacksonville. I don't know if that's a solidified, or I think you said 10 to 12 range. So does that
10 to 12?
Does that mean you have Trevor Lawrence in the MVP conversation?
I think so. I wouldn't necessarily say I think he could be in the MVP conversation. I don't necessarily. I don't want to say that he's going to be top 3 or even top 5, because of the fact that you've got kind of more established guys. You've got. I think you got Mahomes, Burrow, and Jalen Hurts. I mean, that's the top 3 off of my head automatically. And then you still got Justin Herbert. Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, it seems like, is poised for a big passing year. I think there's definitely a world where Trevor Lawrence could be in the MVP race, but I don't really. I think there's a lot of talent to where he could easily be outside the top 3 or even the top 5. But I think he does have the talent, and I think we do have the supporting cast where he could be in the MVP conversation. Or even, I wouldn't necessarily say win an MVP, because, it's going to be hard to top what Patrick Mahomes is going to do this year, which is probably another 5,000 yards and 45, 50 touchdowns, because that just seems like a given for him because he's so damn good.
It's crazy.
You can't stop the guy.
It's insane. It's insane. That's a rational take, or opinion, I should say. I would agree with you. I think his MVP years are like gunning for MVPs. I think he's like a year or two away from that, depending on how the season goes. I don't see a step back year. I think this will be his most solidified year, because even last year was pretty up and down. The one thing that he has, which is quality that Burrow has, is it doesn't matter what happens to them. They're pretty unflappable. So that's always a good quality to have, and your young starting QB. That year with Urban Meyer, that was a year from hell, and you didn't hear any complaints from him. You didn't hear any. So that shows his maturity. So you definitely have something with him. Whether you haven't seen the Andrew Luck flashes necessarily, but I mean, obviously you had the comeback and the wild card game. played well even in that divisional game with KC. So I definitely think there's something there.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you some general NFL questions before we get out of here, though. Give me a surprise team
Okay.
and give me a disappointing team
Mm-hmm.
that you believe will happen in this upcoming 2023 NFL season.
Okay. Surprise team. Man, I think surprise team could be the Pittsburgh Steelers. I just think they have. I think they have a lot. They've got a lot there. You've got George Pickens year two. Deontay Johnson's a great receiver. They went out. Allen Robinson is a third. I think as a third receiver is about as good as you can get, even if he didn't have a good season in Los Angeles last year. They got what's his name, Pat Fryermuth, and then they went and drafted Darnell Washington. You got Najee Harris, and obviously the Pittsburgh defense. The Pittsburgh defense is always going to be good enough to keep you in games. I think Pittsburgh could be a surprise team this year, and I think letdown. I think an easy letdown choice which has been kind of consistent over the years, is the Chargers. And I hate to say that because the Chargers on paper are so good, but it always feels like they always perform extremely low to what their standards are.
Mm-hmm.
Even last year at the playoff game, the wild card game in Jacksonville, I was at that game, and
oh shit,
I think it was the point we were down 28 to 3 right before halftime or something, and a lot of I was with a group of about 10 people. They wanted to leave, and I'm talking to my buddy who lives out on the West Coast, who's a Chargers fan, and he's telling me the whole time, he's like, no, he's like, they're gonna blow it, they're gonna blow the lead, and I'm like, dude, there's no way, there's no way, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, dude, there's no fucking way that he's sitting here telling me they're gonna blow this fucking lead, there's no fucking way. Because what I'd seen from Trevor and from the defense and everything as a whole, I'm like, there's no way. You need a fucking miracle. And, sure enough, when we came from behind and we won the game, he calls me afterwards and he's like, I told you. He's like, I know how this team is. And it just seems like they can never stay healthy. I think that's their biggest problem. If they could be healthy, if they kept everybody healthy, then I think that's easily they've got too much talent not to be a 12-13 win team.
100%.
Easily.
100%. And what's funny about the injuries? It's crazy. Is that even dates back to late career Phillip Rivers, where they had some really talented teams on offense and defense, and they could just never put it together. They could not get 6 to 8 straight weeks of a healthy core. So they just seem snake bitten for whatever reason. I don't know what the hell it is with that franchise. I think they need to get their head coach the hell out of there. I think this will be his last year. So are you telling me you think they fall out of the playoff picture completely?
I think yes. If the injury bug hits them again, then I think especially because I look at their roster, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are super injury prone, extremely injury prone. Austin Eckler is a great running back, but you see with running backs, the more usage they get, the more prone they are to injury. And, if God forbid, if something were to happen to him, then I think that really stalls their offense. And then, Bosa can't stay healthy. J.C. Jackson can't stay healthy. Derwin James, has always kind of seemed to have the injury bug. I think if, injuries hit them, I think they definitely, I just don't foresee them being playoff contention because I think their division's going to get a little tougher. I think Kansas City's going to be good this year. I could see Denver having a bounce back year.
I believe so.
With Sean Payton. That kind of really depends on how Russell performs this year, though. And then Oakland's kind of like that one team of Las Vegas. Kind of that one team where it's I don't really know what to expect of them. You got Jimmy G now. I don't really know if that is really a move going from Derek Carr to Jimmy G, if that's a move that's going to propel you up, or if it's more so of a neutral move. But I think with Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams, I think it's a team that's good enough to at least compete. I could definitely see them falling out. They do, especially on defense too. And then one other team that came to my mind that I could see being like a letdown. I know they weren't really like a contender last year, but I could see Cleveland, being kind of like a middle of the pack team again. A 7-8 win team, especially with how Deshaun Watson played last year. Um, if they get the same results last year that they got out of them, then I think it's going to be a long year. Yeah, you got Nick Chubb, you got Amari Cooper. They went and traded for Elijah Moore, but if Watson plays like that, then I really don't think you have too much of a shot.
They're the biggest wild card to me in the entire NFL. Like, I think me and Keenan were talking about it. I saw somewhere a couple weeks ago they were ranked the 10th best team overall in the entire league, which I think is crazy. They obviously have a lot of talent all around
Yeah,
on offense and defense, and I do believe Deshaun's going to play better. But you can't take 2 years off. Like, I'll shoot him some bail for last year. He took 2 years off, came back and played what, 6 games? That's a tough task for anybody.
yeah, about 6, 7
Um,
games.
but the
Mm-hmm.
thing about it is their division's so tough. You mentioned Pittsburgh. That's without saying Cincinnati and Baltimore, who are going to be neck and neck for that
Yeah,
division. So, I mean, you're battling just to get to 8, 9 wins there. And that's the thing. There's talent on all four
yeah,
teams. I don't know. Burrow's out several weeks, so that could be what? That could take him out till week 2. He might even be back week 1 for all we know. If that's the case, if Burrow's there all 18
mm-hmm.
games, 17 games, I don't see any world where Baltimore's not fighting for a playoff spot so long as Lamar stays healthy. Uh, and yeah,
Yeah.
if Pittsburgh,
I think if Lamar stays healthy with
it'd just be tough. And
yeah,
then,
if Lamar stays healthy, Baltimore
my fault. Go ahead,
is
bro. Go
tough.
ahead.
No, you're good. No, I was just saying if I could definitely if Lamar's healthy, I mean, I think if Odell's healthy too, and then the rookie Zay Flowers that they drafted, I think they could definitely. I
I
mean,
forgot they got Odell. I
hell, they could
completely
be a
forgot
10, 11 win team.
completely forgot they got Odell.
That's a
That's crazy.
10, 11 win team, and like I said, if you're getting Deshaun Watson from last year, it's going to be ugly.
And they probably have the worst coach in the division too, which is not to say he's a bad coach, but Cleveland,
I would.
I'd say he's fourth out of Zach Taylor, out of Tomlin, out of Harbaugh. He's got to be batting fourth out of them four. So
I agree. Yeah, I don't think there's any way that you can put him over any of those guys. I really don't.
no, they got too much success in the
I don't.
league.
I don't think. Yeah, no, you can't. I don't think you can sit here and justify one single reason why he should be over them. I mean that. I agree with that.
So on that note, give me a surprise player or a player who's going to make a leap, and give me a player who's going to take a step back.
Okay. Um. See, this is where it kind of gets into like the fantasy football stratosphere for me. I definitely. So I think one player that's going to take a step back is, and I love him. He's one of my favorite running backs in the league. But I think Ramondre Stevenson's going to take a step back.
Damn, that hurts.
In terms of what he did last year.
That hurts.
So the reason being is because Bill Belichick normally goes with it. I mean, you're a Patriots fan. He likes 2 or 3 running backs.
Sure.
I think Ramondre is going to lose some of that passing down work, and I think I could definitely see where it could kind of be what it was in the beginning of last season, where it was Ramondre and Damian Harris, like where you kind of have 2 of them sprinkled in. I could definitely see that. Like I said, I love Ramondre Stevenson. He's one of my favorite running backs. Loved him when he was at Oklahoma, but I definitely see regression on that end.
So I'm
And
gonna push
breakout.
back. I'm gonna push back before you go to your breakout. I think I agree with you. I think the pass catching, I think that's going to take a step back because they got Ty Montgomery back. He should be healthy. I think he sat out the entire year last year. So I think his pass catching will take a step back, but I think he's going to have a big rushing year. I think he's going to get even more of a workload. We lost Dame Harris. But like you said, with Belichick, it doesn't really matter who you lose. He's going to sprinkle in 3 or 4 backs here and there. But I don't know if you've heard Belichick talk about Ramondre, but he talks about him like he's fucking like Lawrence Taylor. Like he loves Ramondre. So I think
Really?
it's going to be a very Ramondre centered offense. I don't know to the level of like when we had Corey Dillon way back in the day, but I think if there's going to be a shining star out of the offense, it's going to be Ramondre. But I do see some pass catching taking a step back. I think we'll have a true third down pass catching back. That being said, he's very effective catching the ball out of the backfield. I thought he improved
No,
greatly.
he is. He's definitely a 3-down. He's a 3-down running back for sure. Like, there's definitely no knock on him at all, talent wise. I think he's, I think if he was given the opportunity to play all 3 downs, I think you could probably talk about him with some of the best backs in the league up there, for sure. Like, I definitely think talent wise, I think he's more than capable of doing it.
Agree with
for
that.
sure. And then I think breakout wise, like somebody that I think that's going to break out, like I kind of like with this stuff, I kind of gravitate towards like skill positions because in quarterback, it's I feel like quarterback is kind of one of those things where you can kind of really pinpoint like who's going to break out, who's going to regress a little bit. One of my favorite players, I guess you could say. I think Kyle Pitts is due for a bounce back year this year. Like I think he's too good, and the reason being, I think he's too. I hope so. Like I think he's too good not to have a bounce back year.
People were talking about him like a Gronkowski type, like a generational type of tight end. He was taken at number 4.
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of has to. It's kind of a make or break year with him. Granted, like let's say he had a
poor
year.
It is.
Let's say he had a poor year, and let's say the Falcons move on from him next year. I think you'd have 31 teams lined up to take him. You know what I mean? I think everybody's jumping on his talent.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, his years were just way too quiet. I had him in fantasy last year, and it's kind of that way with tight end anyway. You kind of take who you get and kind of pray with what you get. But you would have expected, given his talent, even with Mariota as his quarterback, you'd figure there'd be a way to get him the ball. And it seems like both years he's been in the league, regardless of quarterback, it doesn't really matter. And I don't know what the reason is.
Yeah.
You would think he would have some flashes by now. I would say maybe he's had 4 big games in the 2 years, maybe. I don't think that's crazy to say. It's a low number either way.
4, yeah. If that. I mean, because if you look at his rookie year, like he did put up 1,000 yards his rookie year, but like his touchdown total, I want to say he only had like 3 or 4 touchdowns that his rookie year.
It's insane.
And then you get to last year, and it's 400 yards I think for the whole year, and it's like that. Like you said, he's a generational tight end prospect. Like you got all that talent. I mean, there's no way that I mean, you would hope a little bit better quarterback play with Desmond Ridder this year. I mean, hopefully. I don't think it can get much worse than what Marcus Mariota was last year, but I do agree. I think it's a make or break year for him, and I do think he's got the breakout potential. Like I think he's one of the easier if you want to sit and pin a breakout or a bounce back. I think Kyle Pitts is definitely one of the. I think I wouldn't necessarily say safer choices, but one of the more easier choices because of his talent
by default almost. With him. So
yeah,
as we sit here, it's August 1st. I got one more question for you. It's actually going to be an NBA question. And then we'll end with a music question. We started with music, so we're going to end with music, but we'll get to the NBA first. It's August 1st now. We've had a full month since free agency. Who do you think won the offseason for the NBA? Who's your winner?
Ooh. Man, that's a good question. I mean, because there's definitely 3 or 4 teams. I like what Houston did, bringing in Van Vliet, and they had a great draft with Cam Whitmore, and then the other cat they drafted in the top 5. I don't remember who it was. I think the Dylan Brooks contract was a little bit of a
Thompson twin.
Might be a little bit of a head scratcher. Yeah, was it a Sir?
I think it's Amen.
I think it might have been a Sir Thompson.
Was it?
Amen Thompson.
I get him mixed up.
I don't know. It's one of them. I know they both went top 5, top 6, because I think that's like the only time in NBA history the 2 brothers have been taken that high.
Yeah, I think they went back to back because Detroit got the other one right after. It seems like there's a lot of wings.
Houston definitely had a good offseason.
Seems like there's a lot of wings in Houston. That's my only question. Is they got a lot of 2 guards, people at the 3
they do.
That can kind of interchange. Van Vliet's kind of solid at the point. They got Udoka. That's going to be great for him. But I wonder who edges out and who kind of stays. You know what I mean? it's tough to tell with that team, but they definitely improved. You can't say they definitely are a better team, even without the free agent signings, even with just their draft picks. I think they improved. And then you get Dylan Brooks, who, people clowned him a lot, but it's still a quality starting wing in the NBA. And then Van Vliet's a great scorer.
Good defensive wing.
Absolutely. Yeah, he can play defense. He can play defense.
I think Houston for sure. Obviously, I was hoping if Miami would have gotten Damian Lillard by now, then I would have, I probably, being a Heat fan, with the bias, I probably would have thrown Miami up there. But,
and I like their offseason, even without the big acquisition. I like Miami's offseason. I like them bringing back Josh Richardson.
It's definitely been a good quiet offseason. I love the Josh Richardson move like that. I love Josh Richardson when he was here the first go around. I like Thomas Bryant as a backup big, although he doesn't really offer too much defensively. He's better on the offensive end. But I definitely, I like what Boston did. Boston with the Porzingis move. I think the Porzingis move makes them a little bit more versatile. Yeah, they gave up Marcus Smart, but if you get a healthy Malcolm Brogdon, then I really don't see a drop off there because Brogdon is a good defensive guard, and he's also good enough to get you 20 points on any given night.
Absolutely.
So I think it was one of those classic cases of addition by subtraction, pretty much.
Could be as long as Brogdon stays.
But I think as a whole, I think if Brogdon and Kristaps stay healthy, then I think then definitely. I think they definitely make another play for the number one seed, and they might actually, get the number one seed in the East. But there's definitely going to be competition. A lot of teams definitely got better this year, for sure.
But Houston would be your number one.
I think Houston, or I like what Indiana did this year or this offseason.
Bruce Brown.
Let's see. Bruce Brown. I think Bruce Brown's going to be big for them. Who else? I like what the Jazz did getting John Collins. I think that was like a sneaky kind of like good under the radar move.
That's right.
I think John Collins is a good 4.
That's a good one.
That gives them good size, especially with Laurie. With Laurie running the 3. And then you got, I think it's Walker Kessler at center. Now, that's definitely going to be a towering lineup, but it's going to be a lineup that can shoot. It's got a little bit of guard issues with THT and all those other guys there, but I think Houston probably I feel like I might be forgetting somebody, but I feel like Houston's probably with coach and draft and then free agent acquisitions, and then also too with Jabari Smith with what he did in the summer league.
Sure,
I just think that's kind of a big thing too, because if he's going to progress and take a step forward, then I think that could bode well for them. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team by any means. I don't think so unless you get Jalen Green takes a major step forward, and Jabari and Sengun and all those guys. But
do you see?
I definitely think they did enough to where they could at least.
Do you see play?
I think there could be playing potential. I think so. I think they could squeak in as like that 9 or 10 team. Like definitely, because I think I do like Van Vliet. He is a little bit streaky. But I do like him. Dylan Brooks is a great defensive guard. You can throw him out on the wing. I think if Jabari Smith takes this, next step forward, I could see them as like that 36 to 41, 42 win team. That's the 9th, 10th seed in the play-in the Western Conference.
All right, let me ask you this.
Could definitely see that.
Let me ask you this. January 1st, 2024. Where's Damian Lillard playing? What team is he on?
I think it's gonna. I really think it's gonna be Miami. I seen a report today that I think it was either Shams or Woj. One of them put out that I guess Miami upped their offer today, or they were planning to up their offer to 3 to 4 first round picks. Tyler Hero facilitated to a 3rd team, and then apparently a young player, which I'm assuming is going to be Jovic or Jaquez Jr. And then a couple of second rounders. But I really think he's going to end up in Miami.
Who's the 3rd team?
I think the third team's going to be either Brooklyn or Utah.
It seems like it would be one of those two with all the picks they have. I mean, me and Keenan had the same exact conversation. I don't think the offer that Miami has, just team for team with Portland, I don't think that's enough. I mean, Portland said as much that it's not enough.
No, yeah, definitely.
And Keenan said the same thing. He thinks a third team eventually comes along, offers the picks, and then, Hero goes wherever, and then Portland gets a boatload of picks, and then Dame gets to Miami. I don't know. I think as time goes on, I could see it happening more. But in general, I just think, and you know this too, I think the team that always is the first main target when it comes to these superstars, it always ends up being another team that sneaks in and grabs them up. Granted, we heard Phoenix with Kevin Durant.
Look at Bradley Beal.
Word.
I mean, Beal, Miami was the first team to come out for Bradley Beal.
Mm-hmm. Miami and Philly both, yeah.
Ends up in Phoenix.
Yeah, none of us expected that at all.
So
it's true.
I could definitely see that. I will say if we don't end up with Lillard, I do agree. I like the moves, but I think I don't really know if you want to really kind of, prey on the fact of catching lightning in the bottle again. I mean,
true.
I don't necessarily know if that's going to happen again. I mean, Bam definitely took a step forward, but I think that's one of those things where Pat Riley's got to sit there, with Mickey Erickson and all those guys and sit there and say, okay, if we don't get Dame, do we think we're good enough as is right now to get back to the finals, with Boston making major moves, Milwaukee's going to be healthy. And even in the Western Conference, Denver, is gearing up again. Los Angeles got way better this year. I think that is actually one of the teams that I forgot about. I just don't know if Miami stays the same and keeps the current core. I just don't know if they have enough to be another finals team again.
Especially
if you get Dame, I think it. Yeah,
losing Gabe Vincent, losing Strus.
Because the thing is, we've had this discussion before, about Kyle Lowry. I think Kyle Lowry, is, I'm kind of bullish on him with his age and, his contract. But that's, as of right now, Kyle Lowry's penciled in, starter point guard, unless you want to make Hero, the starter at the one, which I think he's better suited for playing at two. But,
sure,
a 37-year-old Kyle Lowry, that's not really somebody that I want getting 25, 30 minutes a game.
Absolutely not at this point.
That definitely scares me. 3-4 years ago, yeah, sure, but I think he needs to be getting 15 to 20 a game.
I will say, if you guys don't get Dame, I do think you guys will bring in somebody. Don't know who that somebody will be, but I think you guys have enough pieces and enough cachet. You guys made the finals last year. I think y'all will get somebody. Somebody's going to want to go to Miami. Someone's going to ask for a trade. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a number one guy. It could be a second tier guy, but that would pair well with Jimmy and Bam and the coaching of Spoelstra.
Yeah. So, I think I think a second guy, I do agree with that. Another, a guard that can go out and get his own shot. I would have loved Bradley Beal, but obviously that didn't happen. Zach LaVine, I would definitely, if Dame didn't happen, then I would, maybe call Chicago and just see what they, just kind of a soft inquiry, on what they want for Zach LaVine. I do like Zach LaVine. There's a couple other guards, maybe a four, a 4 or a 5 to play next to Bam. I think if you got a big, a play next to Bam, I think that would benefit, the team as a whole. Especially with Bam not necessarily being able to stretch the floor, and then we all know that Jimmy's not the greatest 3-point shooter himself. And maybe that could be Nikola Jovic this year, which I hope it is. But I think a stretch four would definitely bode well for them.
Absolutely. You mentioned Denver. Last point before I ask you the music question. Denver, it seems like out of all the contenders, mind you, they won last year, defending champion. Seems like they did the least out of all the contending teams, out of all the top teams. They didn't really make any moves. They lost Bruce Brown, which means Christian Brown would kind of elevate into a spot, I'm assuming. But they didn't really make any moves aside from the draft, aside from They might have signed somebody, but I think it was a very quiet bench signing. I'd have to go look, honestly. Like, I don't even know who they signed off the top of my head, but it seems like very minor moves. Seems like very minor moves on their end. Let me ask you before we get out of
they did.
Oh, my fault. Go ahead. I keep cutting you off, bro. My fault.
No, go ahead. You're good.
No, go ahead. Answer that, and then I'll get. You sure?
No, yeah, I'm just saying they stockpiled draft. Yeah, they just stockpiled draft picks. Yeah, I think I do agree though. I don't feel like they didn't make any like monumental move.
I do wonder if they make a trade next year, just as far as bench guys, or if they'll play the buyout market. I thought Reggie Jackson was going to have more of an impact for them this year, and they didn't even play him at all. Still won the chip.
He didn't.
So I wonder, because like you said, it feels like LA got a lot better, and it feels like that'll be their main.
It does.
Probably their main rival next year. The Clippers, you never know. It all depends with them, with their health and everything. But I don't know. It seems like LA, so long as LeBron and AD can stay healthy, seems like that'd be the number one spot. And I mean, they beat them already, sure, but I mean, I don't know. They seem to get a lot deeper, and I don't think Denver got deeper at all, which is what I want to see out of any championship team. You know, usually you come back just a little deeper. You know.
Make like a couple of bench acquisitions because I mean I feel like LA's got they got a whole 10-man rotation right now. If you look on paper, they got 10 guys that they can just throw out there. You know,
they're kind of scary.
They got their 5, and then you can play them. Yeah, they're deep as shit too. I mean hell, if you know Max Christie and a couple of the summer league guys, you know, kind of you know do a little something, then hell they could be deeper than 10 guys. You know, they could easily have a 10-man rotation, you know, all regular season and then playoff time, which if you've got a good 10-man rotation in the playoffs, then you're dangerous because, you know, you're playing a team like Miami when Miami, you know, they're playing 7, 8 guys. If you've got 10 guys, you know, and you don't really have that production drop off, that's going to make you pretty damn dangerous.
Absolutely. It seems like it's the Lakers thing to find a white guy on their summer league roster and just make him an impact bench guy, role player. I don't know how the hell they do it, but specifically, like, all right, let's find the whitest dude we can find, and he's going to be our impact guy. Because, now Max Christie, like, it seems to be their fucking thing. I don't know what it is. Don't know what it is at all.
It fucking beats me.
I don't know what it is. But let me get you out of here on this, bro. What is your song of the summer? If you could pinpoint it, it could be an old school song, could be something that dropped this year. What's a song that's been in your rotation heavy all summer? It just keeps coming back.
Song of the summer. Okay, let me go over here. This is definitely a difficult one because there's a lot of songs that I love.
You look like you're looking at like a whiteboard of music right now. It's what it looks like.
Oh, so I'm looking at my so I got my TV. I got one of those smart TVs, and it's got Apple Music on here.
Got you.
So I'm just going through right now.
He said one of those smart TVs.
Let's go to favorites mix. What would yours be?
What's up? Oh, what would my? I was funny. You say that. It's a random one. "Ecstasy" by Ohio Players.
Mm-hmm.
A throwback, a super throwback, really.
Okay.
But it's a good ride out song. Simple, quick. But that's been in my rotation heavy in the car this summer.
I'm gonna go with. Yeah, this is difficult. I'm gonna go with. All right, I think I'm gonna do. Man, I'm gonna do "Money Making Mitch" by Young Nudie.
Okay.
Gonna be
all right.
So that's a hard hitter. That's definitely a hard hitter. That's one of the songs that you could definitely get in the car and just let it blast.
All right, I like that. I was not expecting to go back to Young Nudie, but all right.
kind of like off the limb, because like I said, there's so many songs that I like that I listen to. I mean, I could sit here for hours and just switch it up. I could go from Young Nudie to Mark Morrison to Keith Sweat or whoever. Like I could sit here and just go back and forth. I can go back and forth all day long.
No, I feel you, because like I would say honestly, the album that's got the most rotation aside from like the new shit, I've been playing Her Loss a lot. I was telling Keenan this not too long ago. Like Her Loss has probably been my most played album this summer, but I couldn't pinpoint a song off it that I've been playing more. So Ecstasy, that's what's at the top of my on repeat right now. On repeat. And I do play it a lot, and it's a 3-minute song. You're in and out. It's great in the summer. Good ride out music. But I don't know if I've listened to that more than Her Loss per se. But it's definitely the one where I'm like, oh, I got to start shit off. Let me play that real quick. It's good vibes. Good way to start your day.
It's like, all right, it's going to be, it's going to set the tone for the day,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Kind of get your day going. But I do agree with that. Like on Her Loss, like there's definitely not a song where it's like you can pinpoint that exact song. It's like, it's one of those albums where it's more so like just a good overall body of work.
And it fits the summer more because it came out in the winter, but I feel like it fits the summer more. It's all club shit, so it's perfect.
It's definitely more of a summer album. I do agree with that. For sure.
Absolutely. Listen, man, we got to do more of this music shit, and we definitely will. Sounds like Drake's dropping soon. I'm assuming Push is dropping soon. God, who else? Who else we got coming this year? It's got to be more. Who hasn't dropped this year? Because like you said, there's a lot of big artists. 21 must have a solo album coming out.
I hope 21 does. I hope he does.
So yeah, we got more reviews to do. Let me ask you this: I didn't give out of a 10 score for Utopia. What would you give it?
I'm gonna give it with all the listens and stuff like that. I think with there only being one bad song in my mind, I think I'm gonna give it a 9.1 out of 10.
Okay. I'm with you. I'm at about an 8.8. 8.8 out of 10 is where I'm at. So we both give it B plus, A minus.
8.8. Yeah, same ballpark. I feel like I do feel like 8.7 to 9.2. I feel like that's a good range for it. I feel like somewhere in that range.
And room to grow over time because, that's how music does. Music grows on you. But for that to be our initial thoughts, shows you what Travis put into the album. So that's what's up.
Yeah. It's damn sure a good one. That's for sure. That's for sure. Branndon,
thank you for joining me. Can't wait to do this again with you. Matter of fact, can't wait for Thursday. Thursday is going to be a banger of a pod.
Yeah, Thursday.
First. So for the listeners out there, you will see this on the Warner Brothas Podcast feed. You'll see it on the same YouTube channel. Everything's going to be the same. Might just have a different title, but it'll be right on the feed. Branndon, once again, thank you for joining. And get ready for Thursday. Ice your knees for Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I appreciate y'all having me. I'm looking forward to Thursday. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely. This was Kyle Warner, Branndon Petty. We're out of here. Have a good one, bro.